Hey, did they make you read Henry V when you're in high school or college, the Shakespeare play? I don't know if people still do the Shakespeare thing or not in undergrad or high school, but I loved it. I didn't always track with the prose. My brain would kind of align to it after a while. You know, you'd hear it enough and you start to be like, oh, it's almost like you're warming up to speaking another language. But the plot, that always worked pretty well for me, and the plots were so juicy, like Game of Thrones kind of stuff. And you remember Henry V? The part where I think it was on the eve of battle, he goes down and he disguises himself as a regular commoner and he mingles with his troops to get a feel for where they're at to better understand how to lead them. I think that was the idea. The next day into battle, or however it worked, I'm probably butchering it, but that scene stands out to me from high school. And then, of course, in contrast to that, you can think of a bajillion scenes from Shakespeare, books, movies, everything, where a king shows up with the full regalia and they look the part of the king and everybody's like, that right there is a king. And they recognize him and they know what posture to assume. You know, I got to throw some rose petals, or I need to bow down, or I need to fluff up this red carpet that he's supposed to walk on. You just know what to do. Well, we've got a conundrum here in Matthew chapter 10 as to whether the people that the disciples are going out to talk to are going to recognize Jesus as a king or not. Is it going to be more like the arrival of King Robert Baratheon into Winterfell, where everybody knows that's the king and exactly what to do? Or is it going to be more like the Henry V situation, where people aren't exactly sure and maybe they miss who the king is? Well, it looks like the idea here is that Jesus expects that enough has been done and communicated, not just recently, but throughout time, that people should recognize the king when he shows up. Why do I say this is evident? Well, just look at the text with me again. Matthew chapter 10, we just got done hearing about who all the disciples are, and then it says, verse 5, these 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions. Don't go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Okay. Go rather to the lost sheep of Israel. As you go, preach this message. The kingdom of heaven is near. Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons. Freely you've received, freely give. Don't take any gold or silver or copper in your belts. Take no bag for the journey, or extra tunic, or sandals, or a staff, for the worker is worth his keep. So in addition to all the miracles we just saw in chapter 9 and chapter 8 of the book of Matthew, in addition to how those miracles correspond perfectly with the stuff describing the arrival of the kingdom in Isaiah and the other major prophets, Ezekiel, Jeremiah, in addition to that, I think there are enough clues in this little paragraph that Jesus just gave his disciples to say he expects to be recognized as a king. Check this out. He said, don't go to the Samaritans or the Gentiles. Well, why? Well, they wouldn't recognize him as a king anyway. And the message you're going out with is the kingdom of heaven is near. That message wouldn't mean a lick to an outsider who's never heard of the scriptures, who doesn't really know exactly how they work. Maybe the Samaritans would have some vague notion, but they're not operating off of the same Bible or off of the same expectations. So clue number one that Jesus thinks people in this neighborhood should have enough data to identify him as the king is just who he sends his disciples to. The second clue is the message itself. The kingdom of heaven is near. It's so bare bones. It's so stripped down. Again, it's like Winterfell. Everybody knew the king was about to show up. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, because you're a dignified person who didn't watch Game of Thrones because you're decent and quality human, then I salute you and you're just fine. You're still going to understand what we're doing here. But yeah, everybody knew that the king was coming. That had been announced way in advance. Get the food ready, get the servants ready, scramble, get everything ready to go. The king of the whole 7 kingdoms is on the way. We got to be decked out for all of this. The kingdom of heaven is near is the message that sends everybody into action and proper responses in all of those scenes in movies and books that you've seen all over the place when the king is about to show up. Clearly, Jesus' expectation is the same here. Yeah, people ought to know what this amounts to. They should respond properly. Further, the proof of the kingdom, and I know I'm a broken record on this thing, heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, drive out demons, all of that stuff is exactly what the kingdom is supposed to look like. So he expects that those clues won't just stir curiosity, circus freak-like interest in the disciples, but rather that it will target the minds and responses of the people who see it toward this kingdom message, because that's what's supposed to go with it. Further, when he says, don't take along any gold or silver or copper in your belts, there's no safety net. He's not sending you out because people maybe should know that he's the king, and maybe they'll remember some of this stuff and it'll kind of work, and they'll recognize that you're the king's bannermen and they should receive you as representatives of the king and treat you as they would the king himself because you are his ambassador. Well, if you have that expectation for your subjects, the people who should be eagerly awaiting the arrival of the king and the kingdom, and they see the first emissaries that are declaring the soon-to-be arrival of the king, you shouldn't really need money. They should know what to do. Whoa, you're here on behalf of the king? Like my king? Like the king that I've been eagerly awaiting the return of? What can I get you? Do you want the good bed? Take the good bed. No. I'm sleeping on the couch. You take the good bed. What do you want to eat? Kill the good animal. We're eating that one tonight. That's the response that you would expect if somebody recognized that a real king from a real kingdom is showing up. So you don't need a bag for the journey. You should get everything you need along the way. You don't need an extra tunic or sandals or staff because the worker is worth his keep. So what we're seeing here, and this is really important and a big part of the reason I'm dwelling on this today, is that this is not a mission trip like we think of mission trips. This is not Jesus sending out people to go with their hat in their hand and please, 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 please beg people to please like God. Please think there's a God. Please think it's our version of God. Please sign up. Please say this prayer. Please do this thing. I have to go back and say that we got somebody to sign up. And then after you sign up for the card, could you please give me some free money and somewhere to sleep for a while? Oh, gross. You're going out to persuade people to sign up for a religion, and on top of that, you're just hoping that they'll pay for your existence? This isn't the deal here at all. These are emissaries of the king. These are bannermen of the king. People have been aware that this king was coming since forever, the beginning of time, the beginning of writing, as they recall it. They should recognize what's going on here. And this should not feel like a tacky, hey, you want to sign up for my pyramid scheme or my multi-level marketing deal? And also, can I sleep in your house? It should feel like a royal announcement, a royal arrival with all of the signs and images that go along with that arrival, in the same way that when Prince Ali showed up with 75 golden camels and alpacas, and llamas and peacocks and whatever else he showed up with, that was a demonstration of his regal authority and the incredible arrival that's about to happen in Agaba or wherever that was going down. Likewise, it is the same here. All of these things, the heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse those who have leprosy, I mean, that's your 50 elephants, llamas galore. That is your royal retinue. Those are the values and the things and the images of the kingdom that should cause people to perk up and be like, you know what, dang. The kingdom is at hand, and these guys right here are the bannermen of the king. They legitimately bear the message of the king and the work of the king, and their quest and well-being is now my quest and well-being. Pull up a seat. And so Jesus goes on with that expectation, saying, whatever town or village you enter, search for some worthy person there and stay at his house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home's deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it's not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, shake the dust off your feet when you leave that home or town. We obviously need to talk about what that means. Does that still apply? How does that work? Is that an expectation of how Christianity works today? Is this still the thing that you're supposed to go out and do, go town to town without any stuff and say things? Or is this a one-time deal? You know, I think it's a one-time deal because I've already said that like 3 times. I don't know. I'm not trying to set up fake suspense now. But we will revisit all of that stuff. But for the moment, look, here's why we're doing this. Anytime you come to any passage, if you're not sure what to do with it or how to break it down or how do I get anything out of this, what am I supposed to do, whether you think there's a God or not, whether you think God is behind this document or not, the right way to interpret a document, like, say, the Bible, that holds itself out as being from God with God as the main character is to ask the following 3 questions. What does this text teach me about God or the God character, should you not believe there actually is one and that he's only a character here in the book? What does this teach me about what the God character is up to? What is God or the character of God trying to accomplish? What's the agenda? What's the angle here? What is he doing next? And then the final question is, where does the reader fit in? The original audience to the text, or the later audience, you and me, where do we or they fit in with these questions? And this is a passage where I think the first 2 questions just pop. What does this teach us about Jesus, God, what he's up to? Well, clearly that Jesus believes he is a king, that he believes that this has been made clear enough that everyone else should see that he's a king, that he believes it's been made clear enough that even people who are just getting caught up to speed on this now should receive his bannermen, his emissaries, the 12 disciples, even in their raw form as representatives of the king, heralds of the king, who are at the vanguard of a big royal retinue that is being rolled out right now, and their response should be to them as it would be to the king were the king himself physically present. That is so different than, hey guys, let's go out and sell. We got to get 15 people each to sign up. And if we get 15 people each to sign up and they all get 15 people each to sign up, then we've got ourselves a new religion. No, this is in keeping with Jesus' words in Matthew 5:17 that he is the completion, the fulfillment of all the stuff that happened before. He is the bop to the bop of the Old Testament, and therefore should be recognized and received as a king. And even as we get into the language here at the end, he expects it so much that there's a pretty harsh pushback on anybody who would look at the data in this original audience, in this Jewish audience, and reject that. We'll unpack that language a little bit more next time around. High fives to everybody who has rated and reviewed this program. That is an absolute game changer. I read every single one of those. I do not have the option to respond to them in iTunes or any of those places, but just know that I see them and then I say things to you. And it's mostly thank you or I laugh at the funny things you say. Those are awesome. Huge deal. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who supports the program at patreon.com/the TMBH You are why I get to do this. I've said it enough times that it might start to feel insincere. Please never think that for a minute. It means the world to me. I'm so grateful to you for doing that. All right, I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.